Hey mamas, and welcome to the Entering Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Marie Bilger, a wife, mom of two, VBAC mama, and doula. Join us every episode to learn from professionals, special guests, and moms just like you, ensuring that you know what you need to know and discover things that you didn't know before. I believe in you. Let's doula this, and let's navigate the transition of entering motherhood together. Hey mama, this is another episode of the Entering Motherhood podcast. This specifically is a Doula Talk episode, which if you don't know, we go live on Instagram. And by we, I mean me and Katelyn, who is the co-creator of our signature Own Your Birth childbirth education course. Please go look at that if you are looking for a childbirth education course. It's self-led, online, comprehensive course, and it is just packed with all the information that you will need to be able to feel informed and empowered as you navigate this stage of pregnancy and leading into birth and even the postpartum period. So we are so excited about that course, and we have been chatting and having these doula talks to provide you with more information to really own your birth and have information that maybe you didn't know or refresh your memory on things like that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you ever have any topics that you feel like you would want to add or hear, if you have any questions, then please reach out to us and let us know so that we can include it in these episodes and in these conversations that we are having for you to really feel informed and empowered. So let's get this episode started. Hello, and welcome back. We should have Katelyn joining us shortly, and we will get chatting. He's introducing baby, bonding with baby, and all things like that.
Your hair looks so good today. Just to start with that. Well, hey!
It's getting a lot longer, so...
I love your hair anyway, but...
Cool. So we are talking about older siblings, what that will be like, how we can kind of help them with baby, things that we can do, and bonding with baby and things like that. So
yeah, I feel like this is kind of very much like parent specific. Like everybody's going to talk to their children a little bit different and like at different points, because I know a lot of people wait like a long time to tell their older kids that they're expecting a new baby. And whether it be, they just don't want their kids to tell other people or, whatever the case may be. But it was kind of funny. Like we didn't really, at least in mine and my husband's case, this go around, we didn't really talk about when we were going to tell our kids. And he just told them like the day we found out. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yes, we're doing this.
Yeah, I know. I was like, whoa. I mean, it didn't bother me, but it was just kind of funny because I was like, he's usually very like reserved, but he just told them. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I guess we're probably telling other people now because they're going to tell people, but they did. And I was kind of surprised. Like they didn't say anything until we started telling other people.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah. So, and I mean, it also depends on your kids' ages and things like that too. So, I mean, when we had Isaac, Rosie was only 2 when she might have not even, she was still probably 1 when we got pregnant. And then she was about 2.5 when we actually had Isaac. So, you have to think like age-wise too. Yeah. Like, if they can't talk, they don't really know what you're saying. And like, maybe they see your belly getting bigger. Maybe they'll give you a kiss. Like, maybe they'll kind of acknowledge it, but like, they also like don't have that full awareness. But when you do have older kids that are like able to communicate with you and talk with you, and you can say, hey, there's a baby in mommy's belly, this go around. Rosie just turned 6 in August, so she was 5 when we found out, and she told her whole class like almost immediately. Like we were like, we have to keep it a surprise. Like, we're not telling anybody yet. Blah blah blah. And then
she comes back home like the next day and she's like, I told my two best friends, like I couldn't keep it a secret. And I'm like, okay. And then I think we had told her like, yeah, like you can start telling people now. And it was like they were going around the classroom saying like, hey, like does anybody, what'd you do this weekend? Or like, does anybody have any news? And she just like stands up and tells her whole class. So then like the teacher was like, is she allowed to say that? Like, was that okay?
That is so funny. Kids are great. I love like
Yeah.
hearing the stories of different kids and stuff, like how
Yeah.
how their mind comprehends it,
Right.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, like, at this point, it's very obvious that I have a baby in my belly. And Isaac will still tell people, and he's like, did you know? Like, my mommy has a baby in her belly. And they're like, oh, really? Like, that's pretty cool. Like, I had no idea. And they'll kind of like amuse them a little bit, but like, he
Yeah.
still thinks like, it's a surprise. Like, people don't know unless I tell them. So it
That is
really is cool. Yeah, it's cool, like, seeing how they can, like, conceptualize it. And then
mhm.
it's also like, maybe they do understand, like, okay, there's a baby in there, but it's a
Yeah.
whole other ball game when baby actually comes out.
Yeah.
Because I think, I mean, it's even still shocking for me, like doing doula work, seeing so many babies be born, having two like kids of our own, like the whole process, like, that happens, like the baby comes out, but it's
Yeah.
still like such an amazing phenomenon that like
Yeah.
you have a whole human being just all of a sudden one
Mhm.
day. And
Yep.
so, like, it's going to be really cool this time around for the kids to actually see baby and, like, I not be pregnant anymore. And for them
Yeah.
to, like, both fully be aware of that. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think, like, that's another thing too. It's like, okay, when baby's physically here versus, like, when they're in your belly, like,
Yeah.
how does that change? What does that look like? Because,
Yeah.
now they're making sounds and they need to be fed and
And
changed.
mommy
And
doesn't have quite as much time as she did before for
yeah.
us.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like,
Yeah.
I'm healing. Like, I was getting emotional yesterday, actually, because I was like, I'm trying to do all these things with them now because I know I'm gonna have to take some time to recover and heal,
Mhm.
and baby's gonna be, like, very dependent on me in those first few weeks.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can't go out and do all of these things immediately.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you'll be able to get back to it,
Mhm.
but that, like, immediate transition, those first few weeks, you should be resting, you should be
Yeah.
recovering, you should just be, like, able to bond with baby, and when it's your first,
Yep.
you can do that. You can just, like, lay with baby, like, weeks on end and, enjoy them, be with them, be, like, dependent on their schedule.
Yeah.
But then when you have, like, your siblings, "Mommy, let's go, let's," like, we're trying to think, like, how's carpool gonna work? And, like,
Mhm.
where are we gonna go? What are we gonna do? And, if your partner can kinda take over and help out with those things, that's great. But
Not always the case, you know?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you definitely have to get creative with different scenarios. I think a big thing that I've figured out, at least with my kids, and I'm sure it's the same with most other kids, is like setting the expectation for them. Like, and communicating with them of like, hey, this is what's gonna happen. Like this baby, the baby's gonna come out of mommy's belly and things are gonna be a little different for a little bit, and your friend, whoever, daddy might take you to school or however that looks. Or, like we're planning on homeschooling. And so we're not quite there yet, but next year Solomon's going to be starting kindergarten. And it's like, this is, this is how it's going to look different. And
Mhm.
just going ahead and setting those expectations. And it's not always going to go 100% to plan, but that way they have an idea of what to look for. And I feel so terrible saying this, but sometimes, like, you forget, or sometimes I forget, that they are 100% human with the same needs that I have and all of that. I don't know why I tend to think they're just moldable. They'll be fine. I can just not tell them and then wonder why they're having a meltdown. Like, it sounds so stupid saying it, but like, so I've really been intentional recently about telling my kids more of, hey, this is what's going on. This is our plans. And it's funny because Solomon, he's 4.5, but he'll ask almost every morning, like, what's today? What are we doing? Like, what's our plan for today? And it's so funny to me because I'm like, he is such a planner at
Yeah.
4.5. I am not, but my husband is. And it's just really funny seeing their personalities shine so early.
Yeah, yeah, and if they are on a set schedule, if you are like, the default parent, if you wanna use that term, if you are the one kind of like with them day in and day out, and now like, okay, first of all, like first trimester, I was extremely exhausted. So
Yeah.
all the activities that we were doing and had that schedule on, I was like, like we're gonna not do that today, or like it's gonna look a little bit different, or like
Yeah.
even this morning, like I was getting Rosie ready for school and I just start dry heaving. And I'm like, okay, like this is fun. I thought we were done with this. Like, and it's just like navigating like through all of those things. And then they're like, okay, like mommy does like, and like Rosie kind of like understands it now because like I have been a lot more sick this pregnancy. And she's like, oh, like mommy's not feeling well today. So like she's very kind and like, understanding. And she's like, okay, like I'm going to be, more quiet or help mommy or like, what can I do? And Isaac is just like, let's go, mom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, okay. Like we went to like a pumpkin festival thing yesterday and he's like, come on, let's go. And it's like only like 80, 85 or whatever it was, but like I am this big old belly, like I'm hot, I'm walking around in the heat and the sun, and he's like, let him go, mom. And I'm like, I'm getting there. It's definitely dependent on the age. It's definitely like, their personalities too. And like it is something that you have to kind of like navigate and work through depending on those scenarios. And so like when you are thinking like, are we adding another child into our family? Like you do think of the older siblings and how that's gonna like, alter things for them. And, there's, obviously people that have kids like very close in age where like I was saying, like they're not old enough to communicate or really have that conversation. But then there is like huge age gaps too. Like there are people with teenagers that now like have a baby. And it's like, okay, how do I tell like my teenagers about to have like another baby? And maybe there's like a huge age gap. And so it really is like looking different and like depending on those different scenarios how it's going to look. But I definitely think it should be like, part of your plan, like part of the conversation, like how are we telling the kids or like what does that look like? Or, if you want to have like that first interaction, like I remember bringing Isaac home from the hospital and Rosie, like seeing him for the first time. And it's like, okay, like how's this going to go? Like,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and especially I feel like when the kids are closer in age like that, because we have very similar age gaps with our older two. And I remember thinking with Solomon when we brought Naomi home, I was like, man, like he's not going to know what to do. He's going to throw a toy in her face or something like that. And I mean, obviously, if they're younger like that, plan for stuff like that to happen and be ready. But I was very surprised with how gentle he was and all of that. And it was just interesting to see. But, we had told him a lot beforehand, we're going to be having a baby. We're going to be bringing a baby home, all of this stuff. And one thing we did that I thought was just the sweetest is like when Naomi was moving a lot when I was pregnant, and she moved a ton, is I would be like, Solomon, here, feel the baby. And I think it really like started clicking for him when he could feel the baby move. Cause he was like, you would just see a light bulb go off in his head almost. And he was, not even 2 then, but you could still see it. And I was like, that's going to be the baby that we bring home. That's going to be your baby brother or sister because we didn't find out. And then we would usually ask him, do you think the baby's going to be a boy or a girl? And, like talking to him about it and just saying, what do you think? And all of this different stuff. And obviously that's much more geared to younger children, but with older children, you can have more like adult like conversations, obviously depending on their age, but it's just really interesting to me how each kid comprehends things a little bit differently. And, you can say the same thing, but if you have multiple kids, they're going to catch different pieces of that. And that's not necessarily bad or wrong. It's just how their brain works. And I just think it's so interesting. But, just keeping that conversation open and, however you want that to look. If you're planning a hospital birth, then, do you want them to come to the hospital? Do you want things like that? Or if you're planning a home birth, do you want your kids at the birth?
Right.
That's kind of something that I'm navigating right now. I'm like, do I want them there? And if I do, I'm going to how are we going to make that look?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And that's I'm really excited this time around. We are having a home birth and we are having a doula who's a sibling doula who's going to specifically be there for the kids. So
Yeah.
I want to gonna have her, on the podcast as well, but then I want to have another discussion with her and just let people know that that's an option and that can happen, home birth or hospital birth. And it's really something, like you're saying, what do we do? If, I go into labor at midnight and the baby's here, or, the older sibling's here, and we got to go to the hospital, or I don't know how I'm going to do when I'm in labor. And I don't know if I want the kids in the room or not, or I don't want my partner to have to go, worry about them when they should be here with me, or I want them here with me. And so it's really kind of, navigating that. And what does that look like? And there are options. And I think again, what we really hope for people to understand is there's stuff out there. And if there's not a specific, sibling doula in your area, maybe you have a friend or a family member that can be in on that and you have that plan covered. You say hey, is it okay if I call you at 2:00 in the morning and we need to go to the hospital? Can you get here? What does that look like? And so really just making that plan for the older siblings and knowing what that looks like, it's just super helpful because you don't want to be panicked and then not know what to do with them or, just not have a plan and you're kind of navigating that in the moment and things go fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you kind of what the thought that's come to my mind and what I'm leaning more towards. I haven't officially talked this over with my husband yet. So there's that. But because my kids are very standoffish of people that they don't really know. So I was like, if we were to hire a sibling doula, we would have to spend so much time with them beforehand. And it wouldn't even be worth it for them because we'd have to take up so much of their time just for my kids to get comfortable with them. But there's a couple girls at our church who are college age and my kids love them. And so I'm thinking, and I know one of them absolutely would be on board with it, but telling both of them, hey, would y'all mind kind of being on call this time frame for the birth? And that way you can watch the kids. And if they needed something or whatever, you're there. And they both have their driver's license. They both have a car. So if they needed to go, they could. But it's also somebody that my kids are familiar with and stuff like that. And there's no right answer or wrong answer to any of this. It's just doing what's best for your kids. And there's just so many different options out there too, which is awesome. And it can be a little bit more difficult if you're new to an area and you don't have family or, whatever, but there's so many avenues that are available to pursue. And it's, I don't know, it's really neat.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many factors that go in. And like you said, I think the, bonding with the baby, even in the womb and feeling them kick, that's been really cool with our kids. And it's a way for them to interact with baby. And then once baby's born, like having them like, hey, can you go get me a diaper? Or like, hey, can you get a burp? Like having them help and be a part of it, not saying like, hey, like I'm over here, like I'm with baby, you can't come here. Or like, always kind of like they have to be quiet or like this or that. Like really including them in the process, I think can go a long way.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's just, it's always going to be, I mean, whether it's 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or 5 to 6, like, it's always going to be a new transition. It's always going to be something that is changing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, this is so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we could kind of talk about it forever.
I know. But
there's so many different dynamics that go into it.
Yeah, there are. And it's also kind of fun because this is something that we talk about in our course too. Like we have a whole little module on older siblings and partners and all of that stuff. And obviously there's a ton of information for the mom, but we also have sections specific for other family members as well, which I really like because I feel like that's not included in a lot of courses. So something you're interested in. Let us know.
Yeah, I feel like we took a lot of time like digging into like all different options, all different perspectives, all different scenarios that can really kind of go into that. So
yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, this has been fun. We'll keep doing our doula talks until something happens on my end.
All right. Well, we're excited for both. For doula talks and for a new baby.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Thank you, mamas, so much for listening. Remember, you are a rock star. I believe in you. Let's doula this. Let's crank it up a notch and let's kick it into high gear together. Hit that subscribe button, share this episode with a friend, message me, email me, call me, beat me. You know how to reach me. We're doing this, mamas. I am so excited to catch you here next week. This is your one-stop go-to place for helping you find the resources you need to make the best choices for you and your family during pregnancy, birth, and most importantly, postpartum. See you later, mamas.